So I'm reading from the first Peter, the letter that Peter wrote, chapter 1, verses 3 to 9. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy, he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoil, or fade. This inheritance is kept in heaven for you, who through faith are shielded by God's power until the coming of the salvation that is ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you greatly rejoice, though now for a little while you may have had to suffer grief in all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Though you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. The book of 1 Peter is about hope. So I wonder this morning what you are putting your hope in today. The poet Emily Dickinson described hope as the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. Astrologist and cosmologist, I had to put my teeth in to say that, Stephen Hawking once said, if there's life, there's hope. And strangely, even Homer Simpson has something to say about it. He said, my biggest sin is that I dare to hope. Hope is a universal thing. It's generally considered to be essential to life and common to us all. And yet our experience of hope can vary enormously depending on who we are, whether we've got faith or not, where we live, how we've been educated, how much money we've got, even the colour of our skin or our gender or our sexuality. These things can affect how we engage with this thing that we call hope. So I wonder, as you sit here today, what, if anything, are you putting your hope in? I am thinking about this during the week, and I have to be honest that more than ever, I see the news each day and I wonder where on earth we're heading to, not just in this country, but around the world. The hope in the world, our sense of hope, seems to be growing increasingly more and more thin. And it's hard to see where anyone's hope might come from, apart from God himself. And it seems that many people are feeling the same way. More and more, our younger generation seem to be no longer fooled by the things that used to cover over the cracks. Maybe that's why we're seeing so many people, young and old, arriving at our church doors, not just here in Basingstoke, but at churches up and down the country, people wanting to see, to explore for themselves if there's more to life than this. Where is the hope? Wanting to find out where God is and whether he might be able to offer something real, a real kind of hope to them, where something seems to be so missing from everything else around. And if that's you today, if you're one of those people who've come to our door, come to this service, or maybe turned up over the last few weeks seeking, then you're in the right place. You're welcome to come here and explore. And so we are going to be spending the coming few weeks looking at this letter that was written by Peter, St. Peter, a letter written to encourage anyone who read it that true hope, living hope from God, is really all that we need. Through the highs, through the lowest of the lows, and through all the very ordinary moments in between, we can, all of us, have hope. Hope that can bring reason to our life and purpose and security. Hope that is 100% reliable and complete. and that can withstand every single thing that life might have thrown at it. And hope that has real substance, more substance than anything else we've ever known. There's a verse in Ecclesiastes 3 in the Old Testament which came to mind. It says this, it says, God has set eternity in the human heart, which describes how we are all actually created, designed to have hope, to know hope, and how deep down we all have this innate longing for permanence, for meaning and a connection with God, to have hope from God. And when I'm talking about hope and what we're all longing for, of course, I'm not talking about a wishful thinking kind of hope, not a hope against hope, or where we might have a nice idea about something, so I hope that's going to happen, but we may or may not think that it's actually going to happen. And neither am I talking about sort of being a positive thinker or being an optimist against all the odds. Just before Easter, I was talking to Dan, our curate, who many of you will know, and I was chatting to him just about how I like to sleep with the bedroom window open, I like fresh air, and how as I sit or lie in bed at night, I can hear the buzz of the M3 in the distance. Anyone share that? Very exciting. Apparently it completely stopped in COVID. There's an interesting thought. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so I get sidetracked. So before we moved to Basingstoke, I used to live in Cornwall, very close to the North Sea. And so I described to Dan how this is what I do at night. I get into bed, I close my eyes, I listen to the buzz, and I imagine, because it sounds very like the sea to me, at which point Dan laughed hysterically at me and then said that I must be the most optimistic, sort of ultra-optimistic person he'd ever met to think that the motorway, the M3, should sound anything like the North Atlantic. Anyway, I can be guilty of a little bit of optimism. It's a good thing at times, I think. But that isn't what I'm talking about now. That kind of hopefulness is different from this living hope that God can provide. Real, living, powerful hope that we're talking about here. And Peter is writing about this in this letter very powerfully. He says this fabulous verse, which I think is just so impacting to me. He says, in his great mercy, in other words, in God's absolute kindness to us, he has given to us new birth into a living hope. He's given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead. And Peter, it really struck me as I read this, realizing who was writing this letter made it more impactful, because Peter knew what he was talking about, because he'd seen all of this, all the stuff that we've just been remembering over Easter. He was there. He saw it firsthand. He was there at the cross. He watched as Jesus, in whom he put his hope, was crucified, and he'd seen that hope seemingly be crushed and fall away as Jesus died. But of course, Jesus didn't stay dead. And just as we celebrated last Sunday with confetti cannons and probably lots of chocolate when you got home, the resurrection that we celebrate with such force on Easter Sunday is a life-changing moment. And it was life-changing, a life-changing reality for Peter. Peter was the one, having seen his hopes crushed, he was the one, when he heard that the tomb was empty, who ran. He ran to the tomb to see for himself. He was the first inside the tomb to look at the spot where Jesus would have been laid, where the body was laid. And he must have been so confused, daring to hope a little bit about what was happening. But then as he went off, post-resurrection, hope came and found him. Jesus came to him over the next few weeks, and a new living hope of a whole different kind burst into life inside him. So when Peter's writing this letter, there's a real oomph behind it. There's power in these words, because he's talking about God's kindness to all of us, including him. Peter, I love Peter because he's a little bit of a character, isn't he? He's sort of messed up all the time, and I relate to him hugely, and you probably do as well, because he's just so human and so normal. And Peter's saying here, like, full of faults, having messed up so profoundly, even around the time of Jesus's death and resurrection. He's saying, Jesus has done this for me, and he's done it for you too, because hope is a person. It's not just an idea. Hope is a person, and his name is Jesus. He knows your name, and he wants you to know his name too. Jesus is the one who brings us hope. So this is living hope, and it's born from not just a nice idea or a fairy story that we read about in a book that looks a bit old. This is concrete reality born from an actual moment in history and time when hope broke free, conquered death, so that every one of us could know hope for ourselves. And so much more than just a nice idea or a wishful dream, this hope is real. It has substance, and it makes a difference in all of our lives. It transforms us. It becomes the foundation on which all of our life stands once we know Jesus. When we come to believe and know in him, this new birth intrinsically reforms us on the inside. It's like we have hope running all the way through us, because it's our very essence from that moment on. It's like a stick of rock. I love rock. You know, you go to the seaside and the name of the place is all the way through. I'm not going to suggest we cut each other in half to check, but it's like hope is running all the way through us. It's who we are. It's all we do. It's all we'll ever be. Hope is imprinted in our lives, and it's complete and perfect. All that we need is held within this living hope. God's saving work is complete. It's not with fault. It's not with blemish. It's perfect to give us a hope and a future. He did the job properly. Even though we live in a world that tells us that we always need a little bit more, Jesus has given us a hope that is more than enough. And I'm quite struck by the pressure of the world around us. Now, I'm quite often on social media, a little bit too much. I'd actually love to be on it a little bit less. But social media, for example, plus everything else in society, is constantly telling us what we're missing out on in our lives. That we just need that one thing, and then our life will be complete. It could be a miracle-working face cream. You can see what comes up on my screen. An opportunity to win an amazing mansion somewhere. You know, the ones where you buy a ticket and you can win this fantastic house overlooking the sea in a really glamorous part of the world. Or a life-transforming new exercise routine, or a fantastic piece of clothing, or a holiday. It could be anything. Everything around us is constantly telling us that we need more. We need that thing. It's almost like we need something to add to the hope that we've got. And it's so easy for us, even if you've been a Christian for a long time, and I've been a Christian since I was about 25, we can fall so easily into the trap of thinking that we need that as well. And it diminishes Jesus' hope a little bit, because we think that we need that in order to be okay. We're probably okay if we're on a bit of a spiritual high, when we're doing really well in church. We're probably less swayed. But when life gets just a little bit ordinary, which, let's face it, it is a lot of the time, and when our faith doesn't feel quite so dramatic, which, let's face it, we just have to get on with life with Jesus. It's real life, and we have to do it. So that can quite often be the case. Or when life gets really hard and the tough stuff comes, then it's so easy to feel we need to add more in order to bolster that sense of hope that we have. And they may even be good or nice things. I'm not saying any of those things are bad. They can be really important things, but they can never, none of it ever carry the full weight of our need for hope. We were built to know that hope that only God can give. So even if it's a relationship, doing some financial planning, families, children, at work, at homes, doing pension planning, checking out our image, getting more healthy, goals in life, all of that stuff which we all deal with and think about. It's not bad, but it's just not a replacement, or can't add or bolster the hope that Jesus gives us. His hope is enough. However we feel and whatever is going on in our lives, our ultimate security, our peace, our joy is only kept safe for us in the living hope that we have in Jesus. Now, if I'm honest, planning for this and knowing that this sermon series was coming up, it's been really helpful for me because I feel like I've been relearning a lot about this hope that I thought I knew, but has been pummeled a little bit over the last couple of years, which have been really tough for us as a family the last 2 years. For family reasons that happened, that sort of curveballed us a little bit. We had to leave Cornwall 2 years ago, which is how we ended up here. And we had to leave all the hopes that we had, the things that we planned to do down there. We had to leave those behind. And then we came here, it was new jobs, new home here in Basingstoke, which was never part of our plan. So we sort of rethinking it, sort of bashed us a little bit. And then we lost parents and 3 of our closest friends all died quite suddenly and quite prematurely. It's been tough. We've had a really hard couple of years. And there have certainly been moments when me who's sort of a priest who you think would have it all together, but just a normal person actually, had to go to God and hold out my hands and say, God, I'm struggling to find hope at the moment. Can you show me how to have your hope, how to sort of recapture it, how to know it better, how to feel as if it's true when I've got sad or disappointed or just wondered what on earth is happening. There's those moments where we're invited to press into God a little bit more. And I'm sure many of us here, maybe even all of us, have got our own story we could say about this is what's happening in my life, or is what has happened, and it's been tough. But on this journey, I've been reminded of a few things and actually encouraged myself, a little bit of discipline in there as well, making myself feel like I needed to walk more towards God intentionally. And I hold tightly, or have reminded myself daily of a few things to remember the hope I have in him, that I'm not going to get anywhere else, never, because it can't be replaced. And it's summed up for me in this verse from Romans 5:5, this great verse. From the Amplified Bible, it says this. It says, this hope in God never disappoints us, because God's love has been abundantly poured out within our hearts through the Holy Spirit who was given to us. God's hope never disappoints us. So whether life is going really well for you, in which case you're probably not leaning into that hope as much at the moment, or if you're really struggling, or if you find yourself somewhere in between today, whether you've been a Christian for decades, or whether you're really not even sure if you are a Christian, you're just here to have a look. God's hope will never disappoint you. He says it. He's never going to lie. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And this hope that he has given us and implanted in our hearts and given us new life in him is never going to go away. He won't ever let us down, as we've been singing. So he offers to us today, to every single one of us, and every day, a brand new hope-filled life, so that we can have everything to live for because of Jesus. Sounds a bit of a cliche, but it's true. He makes all the difference. God is keeping careful watch over us and our future in this life and in the next. And he holds this hope, our hope, this hope that he's given to us, that he's earned for us. He holds it safely in his hands. It's never going to be compromised, never going to be reduced or diminished. It's safe for eternity. And I do believe that today, wherever we find ourselves, that he wants us to receive afresh, to be reminded of, or even to receive for the first time, this hope that we have in him.